On a busy city street, a billionaire CEO's pride and joy, a multi-million-dollar hypercar, sat gleaming under the sun until a stranger in worn clothes brushed its hood and triggered a confrontation that stopped everyone in their tracks. Seconds later, a twist no one saw coming would turn that moment into a story the entire world couldn't stop talking about. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us where you're watching from. If this story moved you, we'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let us know what you think. Now, let's jump into the story. The morning sun hung low over Willow Street, casting long shadows across the glass front of Orion Technologies headquarters. The building stood like a mirror to the sky, sleek and towering, a statement of wealth and progress. On the curb, parked as if it were a piece of art on display, rested a sapphire blue Velar hypercar. Its curved frame gleamed under the light, its chrome details catching every glimmer. To most people passing by, it wasn't just a car. It was a trophy, the kind of machine that existed only in dreams and headlines. Pedestrians slowed as they walked past, pulling out their phones to take photos. The hypercar's low stance, polished surface, and signature Orion emblem made it impossible to ignore. Whispers of its rumored price drifted through the small crowd. Some guessed $5 million. Others swore it was closer to $7 million. The truth was higher still, but no one dared to say it too loudly. On the far side of the street, Amira Leone walked at an unhurried pace. Her canvas bag, weighed down with tools, bumped softly against her leg with each step. She wore dark jeans streaked with oil and a faded green shirt, rolled at the sleeves. Her sneakers were scuffed and worn, the kind of shoes that had seen long days in garages and workshops. She noticed the crowd before she noticed the car, but the moment the Velar came into view, she slowed. Amira stepped closer, drawn not by its luxury, but by the hum it gave off, a subtle, uneven vibration she could hear and feel. It was faint, the kind of thing most would never notice. She crouched slightly, her eyes tracing the lines of the hood, before her hand rose almost unconsciously, fingertips brushing the metal. A voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "Step away from the car." The crowd turned in unison. From the wide entrance of the building strode Rowan Drax, the CEO of Orion Technologies. Tall, immaculately dressed in a charcoal suit, his silver tie pin caught the light with every step. His shoes, polished to a mirror finish, clicked against the pavement. His expression was sharp, his tone sharper still. "Do you have any idea what you're touching?" he asked, his voice echoing off the glass facade. "That machine is worth more than everything you own." Amira straightened, meeting his gaze without flinching. "It's a fine machine," she said evenly, "but your left intake valve is running hot. It's going to trigger a cascade if it idles too long." A few people in the crowd exchanged puzzled glances. Rowan let out a short laugh, the kind that carried more insult than humor. "You think you can diagnose my hypercar with a glance?" he said. "You don't even belong near it." Security guards stepped forward, "But if I were you, I'd check it before you take it out." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "And you are?" "Someone who understands engines," she replied. Rowan dismissed her with a wave, turning toward the building. "Security, make sure she's off the property." But Amira didn't move. Instead, she took a step back and let her gaze sweep over the vehicle one last time. "You'll know I was right," she said softly, just loud enough for those nearby to hear. The crowd's attention shifted between them like a pendulum. Rowan's confident stride into the lobby felt forced, his shoulders rigid. Amira adjusted the strap of her canvas bag and began to walk away, though her eyes lingered on the hypercar. Behind her, One man in the crowd murmured to another. She sounded like she knew what she was talking about. The other nodded. Yeah, and she didn't seem scared of him at all. On Willow Street, the moment lingered in the air, unshaken by the bustle of the city. The Veller's polished surface still shone, but beneath it, something unseen had already been set in motion. In the span of a few minutes, the morning had shifted from an ordinary display of power to the first stirrings of a story no one would forget. As Amira turned the corner, the hum of the car faded behind her. She didn't need to look back to know the problem would reveal itself soon enough. Her pace stayed steady, her thoughts already moving ahead. She hadn't planned to stop. She hadn't planned to speak. But sometimes, the smallest spark is all it takes to light a fuse. The sapphire blue Velar hypercar still sat in its place outside Orion Technologies, its polished frame catching the morning light. The crowd, which had started to thin after the sharp exchange between Amira Leone and Rowan Drax, began to stir again when a low sputter broke the air. Rowan's driver, a broad-shouldered man in a dark uniform, had slid into the driver's seat and pressed the ignition. The engine grumbled, hesitated, then stalled completely. A faint hiss followed, along with a wisp of smoke curling from the left rear vent. It wasn't dramatic, not yet, but it was enough to make several people step back. Someone in the crowd muttered, "She called it." Rowan's sharp eyes darted toward the driver. "Try again," he ordered. The driver turned the key once more. The result was worse. A grinding noise, another puff of smoke, and then silence. Phones were raised higher now. Whispers rippled outward like waves. One of the security guards shifted uncomfortably. "Sir," he said quietly to Rowan, "I remember seeing an internal notice about a recall on the intake system. Similar to what she mentioned." Rowan's jaw tightened. "Irrelevant," he replied, though the confidence in his voice faltered. Amira, who had stopped a short distance away, turned back toward the car. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She simply walked to the edge of the crowd. "It's the airflow regulator," she said calmly. "You've got a pressure imbalance. If it sits like that much longer, it could damage your catalytic chamber." Rowan's expression hardened. "You're saying you can fix it?" Amira's eyes met his. "I can." The crowd leaned in. The air felt heavy, waiting for his response. Rowan glanced around. Every phone was pointed in his direction. Even from across the street, people had stopped to watch. He knew this scene was already spreading online. The kind of clip that could turn into a headline before he even reached his office. "5 minutes," he said finally. "If you can't fix it, you're done here." Amira stepped forward without hesitation, setting her canvas bag on the pavement. She knelt beside the hypercar's engine bay, her fingers moving with quiet precision. She unlatched a side panel with a small tool, revealing the intricate network of wires, tubes, and chrome components beneath. Her voice stayed steady as she worked, more for herself than for the audience. "The regulator's overcompensating because the thermal sensor hasn't recalibrated since the last software update. It's forcing the mix too rich during idle. That's why it's stalling." Someone in the crowd whispered, "She sounds like one of the engineers." Rowan stood off to the side, arms folded, watching with narrowed eyes. Every click and turn of her tools drew more of the crowd's focus toward her. Amira reached deeper into the engine, releasing a valve connection and adjusting a slim metal component no larger than her thumb. She reattached the line, tightened it with a quick flick of her wrist, then slid the panel back into place. "Try it now," she said to the driver. The ignition turned and the engine roared to life, smooth, even, flawless. No stutter, no smoke. The sound of the Veller's finely tuned power filled the air. Applause broke out almost instantly. Strangers clapped and called. A few even cheered. Amira stood, wiping her hands on a cloth she pulled from her bag. She didn't look at the crowd. Her eyes stayed on the car, listening to the steady rhythm of the engine, as if confirming the job was done. Rowan didn't speak. The tension in his posture was clear, but so was the fact that he couldn't deny what had just happened. Then, the sound of a different engine approached. Deep, slow, and deliberate. A black sedan rolled up to the curb. The rear door opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall, with silver hair and a tailored gray suit, his presence commanding in a way that needed no introduction. The murmurs in the crowd shifted to whispers of recognition. "That's Lawrence Vey," someone said. "He's the majority shareholder." Lawrence didn't look at Rowan. Instead, he walked straight to Amira. "I watched the whole thing on my phone," he said, his voice low but clear enough to carry. "Would you come inside with me? I think we have much to discuss." Rowan stepped forward quickly. "She's not—" But Lawrence had already turned toward the building, gesturing for Amira to follow. Amira hesitated only for a second before picking up her bag and walking alongside him. The crowd parted as they passed, the hum of whispered speculation growing louder. Rowan stood alone by the hypercar. The applause now faded to the memory of what had just unfolded. The spark on Willow Street had turned into something larger, and it was clear to everyone watching this was only the beginning. The elevator doors closed with a quiet chime, sealing Amira Leone and Lawrence Vey inside. The ride to the top floor of Orion Technologies headquarters was smooth, the silence between them carrying its own weight. Lawrence studied her profile as the city blurred through the glass wall. There was no sign of nervousness in her posture. Instead, she stood as if she belonged there. "You diagnosed the fault without running a single test," Lawrence said Finn. Amira turned toward him, her tone measured. "You have my work in every hypercar you've sold. The interface flaw was always a risk. I raised it before the design was licensed, but my name was removed from the files. Your team kept the design, patched it with software updates, and hoped no one would notice." Rowan smirked. "And now you're here to take credit? Convenient. I'm here because your flagship car almost failed in front of your headquarters," Amira replied. "If it had caught fire, it wouldn't just be your reputation on the line. Your investors would be walking out the door." Lawrence raised a hand, silencing both of them. His voice was calm, but edged with authority. "Rowan, is what she's saying true? Was this design originally licensed from an external team?" Rowan hesitated. "It was acquired, yes, but the current version has been heavily modified." Amira shook her head. "Not the thermal interface. That part is almost identical to my original blueprint. The flaw is baked into the architecture. You can patch it 100 times, but until it's rebuilt from the ground up, it will always fail under specific conditions." On one of the wall screens, a comment feed from a live video scrolled upward. Viewers were already debating whether Orion's engineering standards were slipping. Hashtags naming Amira had started trending alongside the company's name. Lawrence turned to her. "What do you want?" Amira didn't hesitate. "Recognition for my work, access to the engineering lab, the authority to correct the interface flaw permanently, and my name restored to every design I contributed to." Rowan scoffed. "That's absurd. We can't just hand her." "You can," Lawrence interrupted, his tone final. He stepped closer to Amira. "And you'll have it. Starting today, you'll be reinstated as lead systems architect. Full credit, full access." Rowan's jaw tightened. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious," Lawrence said. "And until the board completes a full review, you'll be stepping back from daily operations." The air in the room shifted. Rowan opened his mouth to protest, but closed it again, realizing the decision was already made. Amira didn't gloat. She didn't smile. She simply nodded once. "I'm not here to win arguments. I'm here to fix what's broken." Lawrence's eyes held hers for a moment. Then he gestured toward the door. "Come with me. There's something you should see." As they walked out, the cameras from the media floor below caught glimpses of them through the glass. The image of Amira walking beside the most powerful figure in Orion Technologies was already being shared online, fueling speculation. Behind them, Rowan stood alone in the conference room, the live feed still playing in the background. Outside, the city moved on as if nothing had happened, but inside the building, the balance of power had shifted. Amira didn't know exactly what awaited her in the lab, but one thing was certain: she was finally back in the place where her work could speak for itself, and this time, no one would be able to erase her name. 2 weeks had passed since the scene on Willow Street, but the memory of that day still rippled through Orion Technologies. The video of Amira Leone fixing the sapphire blue Velar had been watched millions of times. News outlets called her a genius. Engineering blogs dissected her quick diagnosis. Social media users called her a symbol of persistence and proof that real skill cannot be ignored. But Amira had little interest in the noise outside. She was back where she belonged, inside the company's long-closed prototype lab. The lab sat on the top floor of the building, far from the polished showrooms and boardrooms. Here, the air smelled faintly of metal and oil. Long workbenches were covered in open engine casings, scattered blueprints, and wiring diagrams. Parts of unfinished prototypes stood on lifts, their frames exposed. This was the heart of Orion's innovation, a place hidden from public view. Amira stood at one of the central benches, sleeves rolled up, hair tied back, her hands moving steadily over the open engine of a new project. It was the early build of Orion's next hypercar, but to her, it wasn't about speed or luxury. It was about reliability, safety, and design that could stand the test of time. The door opened quietly behind her, and Lawrence Vey stepped in. He carried a folder under one arm and a paper cup in his hand. "You haven't been home in 48 hours, he said. Amira didn't look up. The S9 model's battery sensors are misreading heat signatures under rapid acceleration, she replied. "If we don't rebuild the core algorithm, it'll overheat during track performance. I'm rewriting the system from scratch." Lawrence set the coffee beside her and opened the folder. "The board has finalized everything. Full recognition on every patent you worked on, back pay for the years you were erased from the records, and a share allocation in the company. It's all official now." Amira glanced at the documents but didn't touch them. "I appreciate it, but this was never about titles or payouts. It's about making sure no one drives something unsafe because someone cut corners." There was a soft knock at the door. Lawrence turned, expecting a staff member, but instead, a boy stepped inside. He couldn't have been more than 16. He wore a visitor badge and clutched a worn sketchbook to his chest. His shoes were muddy, his jacket a little too big for him. He looked nervous as his eyes moved between them. "Are you Amira Leone?" Amira wiped her hands on a cloth and nodded. "Yes, what's your name?" "Noah," he said quietly. I read about what happened outside the building. I saw the videos. I like building things too, engines, small ones. But people tell me I should stop dreaming that it's not realistic." Amira's gaze softened. She gestured toward the bench. "What's in your sketchbook?" Noah hesitated, then stepped forward and opened it. Inside were hand-drawn designs of engine layouts, gearbox systems, and a few rough ideas for energy-efficient motors. The lines were shaky, but full of thought. Amira flicked through the pages slowly. "You've got good ideas. A lot of people will tell you something can't be done, but the truth is, they're just telling you it hasn't been done yet." Noah looked up. But I don't have a place to work on this stuff. Amira smiled faintly. You do now. She led him to an empty workbench near the far wall. This space is yours when you want it. Bring your designs. We'll figure them out together. Lawrence watched the exchange from the doorway, saying nothing. The sight of the young boy setting his sketchbook down beside rows of professional tools felt like something more than a symbolic gesture. This time, she wasn't just taking a seat. She was building a bigger table, one with room for anyone who had the courage to imagine something better. And in that quiet lab high above the city, the next chapter of innovation had already begun. This time, she wasn't just taking a seat. She was building a bigger table, one with room for anyone who had the courage to imagine something better. And in that quiet lab high above the city, the next chapter of innovation had already begun.